And as former President Trump's New York trial enters its final phase, President Biden's campaign making its most direct attempt thus far to wade into Trump's legal woes. Trump's team saying that that's prompted by Trump's lead in the polls. Joining us now live is NTD's White House correspondent Iris Tao. Good evening to you, Iris. What's the latest move here by the Biden campaign, and how is Trump ultimately reacting?
Good evening to you, Steve. So Biden's campaign today made a rare move by holding a surprise press conference right outside of Manhattan courthouse where Trump is on trial. And that's right after the campaign having avoided directly commenting on Trump's trial for weeks. And Biden's surrogates, Robert De Niro and two former Capitol Police officers, focused on the message that Trump is a threat to democracy. And that's as the famous actor got heckled by Trump supporters both during and after the presser. Watch.
I don't mean to scare you. No, wait, maybe I do mean to scare you. If Trump returns to the White House, you can kiss these freedoms goodbye that we all take for granted. And elections, forget about it.
Democrats, you are gangsters. You are gangsters. You're a softy. You're a nobody. Your movies suck.
While Trump's team, in their closing arguments today, told jurors that key witness Michael Cohen is a liar and adding that prosecutors are failing to prove their case. But prosecutors who are still making their closing arguments told jurors today that they don't have to believe in Cohen to find that there is a conspiracy, adding that there is a mountain of evidence against Trump. Trump's campaign, meanwhile, again called this case a political one as Trump's son also weighed in. Watch.
It's an abomination to democracy and to our republic. After months of saying the politics had nothing to do with this trial, they showed up and made a campaign event.
And Biden's campaign was asked about why they're holding a political event right outside of a criminal trial. Their response was they're not there because of the Trump trial, but because of the media outlets who are stationed there. Back to you, Steve.
Well, we even got a forget about it from Mr. De Niro. I wonder if that was scripted or not. NTD's Iris Tao from the White House. Thank you. And in today's closing arguments, Trump's defense saying former President Trump is the victim of criminal conduct in the New York case against him and called the prosecutor's star witness a liar. Prosecutors spending a lot of time responding to the attacks on Cohen's credibility while justifying his bias and defending his anger. Joining me now to assess the strength of the arguments and the jury's presumption is Jesse Bunnell, partner at the Bunnell Law Group. Jesse, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks so much for having me.
It's great to have you back, Jesse. Closing arguments still underway. When will this case ultimately get into the hands of the jury, and when might we see a verdict? And what do you make of the prosecution's case thus far?
Well, that's a great question as for when the jury's actually going to get this case, because the prosecution has been droning on and on in their closing arguments. And even, some left-wing political commenters have admitted that it's a very Miranding closing argument by the prosecutor in this case. Meanwhile, Todd Blanche earlier gave, I think, an absolutely star performance where he just demolished the entire theory of the prosecution's case in his closing argument, pointing out that everything truly does depend on the word of Michael Cohen. And he got up there and pointed and said that Michael Cohen had lied to the jury when he testified. Pointed out that Michael Cohen admitted that he was a thief on the witness stand and was stealing money from the Trump organization. And so Todd Blanche had an absolutely great argument today. The prosecution's argument has been Miranding at best, but the real issue here is the jury instructions. And Judge Merchan, unfortunately, has done everything he possibly could do in order to stack the decks against Donald Trump. And, even going so far as to refusing to properly instruct the jury in the law because he believes it's too confusing, that the law itself is too confusing. So that's really going to be the question. Is Judge Merchan going to successfully be able to convince the jury to convict President Trump based on Judge Merchan's political bias?
Jesse, some great points you made. To your point about the jury instructions from the judge, to those who may not have been in a jury before, describe what that's like when they leave the court and go back into the room there where the judge addresses them, and how critical those instructions are. And also, if you could highlight for us, when it comes to the way that the trial has drawn about right now, where you see this ultimately leading.
Yeah, that's so two great questions. As far as the jury instructions, these are critically important. These are the instructions that judges typically read the instructions to the jury, and then the juries take them back to a conference room where they take and they deliberate together. And this is how juries know what the law is from the judge telling them what the law is, so they can determine whether or not the law was violated, and what process they have to go through in order to determine whether somebody is guilty or not guilty of a crime. So these are critically important, and in this case they are even more important because this is an untested legal theory. It's actually a bizarre legal theory from the prosecution that somehow a non-disclosure agreement is a violation of campaign finance law. And so it's going to be very, very important for how those jurors how they're instructed, and it's very unusual that the judge has not publicized what his actual instructions here are. The fact that he's been very secretive of those jury instructions is yet another example of how the judge is acting out very much outside the norm in this trial. And as far as kind of where we're going from here and what we see, I mean, it's the prosecution is the one that had to meet the burden to show that each and every element of an offense was proven beyond a reasonable doubt. They very clearly have not met that burden. And you see that through this closing argument that's going on right now, where they're droning on for hours and hours and hours, and by all appearances really boring the jury to death. And so if it's a fair trial, it's very clear it should be not guilty. The problem, like I said, is that Judge Merchan has done everything he possibly could in order to make sure this is not a fair trial.
Former President Trump venturing into unfamiliar territory over the weekend, speaking at the Libertarian National Convention on Saturday, where he urged voters to unite behind him and beat President Biden.
The Libertarian Party should nominate Trump for President of the United States. Whoa. That's nice. That's nice. If you want to lose, don't do that. Keep getting your 3% every 4 years.
While addressing the skeptical crowd there, Trump promised to protect Bitcoin and block the creation of a central bank digital currency. He also vowed to commute the sentence of Ross Ulbricht on day one. Ulbricht currently serving a life sentence for operating a website that facilitated the sale of illegal drugs. Libertarian activists have long lobbied for Ulbricht's release. The former president also promising to appoint a libertarian to his cabinet if reelected. Trump's speech was unprecedented. No other current or former president has ever addressed the Libertarian Convention. Despite the party's small numbers, a 3% bump from third-party voters could play a pivotal role in the November election. Thank you for watching the Capitol Report. If you want to see our full broadcast, check us out at epochtv.com.